Hey guys, welcome to the new episode of Biblical Facts. Today we will be looking at one of the greatest missionaries, David Livingstone. Early one morning in the year 1823, a small boy named David Livingstone started work in the cotton factory at Blantyre, near Glasgow in Scotland. He was 10 years old. From 6 o'clock in the morning till the evening, he worked at his loom. But often he had a book propped up in front of him, for he was studying hard to go to college. He wanted to be a doctor when he grew up and go to China as a missionary, spreading the good news of Jesus and showing his love by caring for the sick. His wages were small and he gave them to his poor mother. But she gave it back a little when she was able so that he could buy his precious books. At last, David was old enough to go to college. He worked hard there and passed his examinations. Then eagerly he went to London to offer himself as a missionary. How sad he was to be told that there was war in China and no missionaries could be sent out. One evening he went to hear Dr. Moffat, a famous missionary in South Africa. On a clear morning I can see from my mission station the smoke of 1,000 villages, the great man said. No missionary has ever been to them. David's heart leapt. At once he offered to go to Africa and in the year 1840 set sail on the long voyage. He landed at Cape Town and traveled in a lumbering ox wagon, the 700 miles north to Kuruman, Dr. Moffat's mission station. At once he began his work of teaching and healing, but he was eager to cross the Kalahari Desert and to take the gospel into the heart of Africa. No one knew what lay there. The center of Africa was left blank on the maps of that time. He would have to be an explorer as well as a missionary. He loved adventure and nothing could daunt him. He pushed on to the north for 300 miles and set up a station at Mabotsa in the country of the Bakatla, that is the people of the monkey. They were terrified of the lions which haunted their territory. David Livingstone boldly led a party of natives into the jungle to drive them off. He shot and wounded one, and while he was reloading, the lion leapt on him and seized him by the shoulder. It growled horribly close to my ear, he wrote, and shook me like a terrier shakes a rat. The natives came with their spears to help him, and at last the lion was dead. But Livingstone's shoulder was badly hurt and his arm never properly healed. When he went back to Kuruman, Livingstone married Mary, the daughter of Dr. Moffat. When next he set out for the north, he took his wife and children with him in the ox wagon. But they suffered badly from insect bites and fever, from hunger and from thirst. He left them with a friendly chief and went on till he came to the great Zambezi River. It was what he had been seeking, a road into Africa for missionaries, explorers and traders. He would follow it. First, he made the long journey back to Cape Town with his family and sadly put them on a ship to England. Then he trekked back northwards against to the land of Mokolola people. From their chief village, Linyanti, Livingstone set out by canoe, following the Zambezi River to the west. 27 natives went with him. When the river ended, they plunged into thick forest. They struggled on for weeks, often hungry, often in danger, and Livingstone was often ill with fever. At last they reached the west coast of Africa, and kindly settlers from Portugal cared for them. An English ship was in harbor there. "Let me take you back to England," the captain said. "No," replied Livingstone. "I promised to take my friends back to their homes in Linyanti. It took a whole year to return." How delighted the Mokolola people were to see the white doctor again. Then Livingstone followed the Zambezi River to the east. On his journey he discovered the mighty waterfall which he named Victoria Falls in honor of the Queen of England. At last he came to Quillimane by the Indian Ocean. He had crossed Africa from west to east. Livingstone wondered why the natives of East Africa were so frightened of him. He soon found why. They thought he must be one of the evil slave traders who attacked villages, seized the natives and dragged them off in chains, yoked to each other. They took men and women, even little children, and sold them as slaves on the coast, where they were shipped to America and the West Indies. Livingstone fought against this wicked trade for the rest of his life. When Livingstone returned to England, he found himself a national hero. The Queen herself sent for him to tell her about his work. He spoke all over the land, calling young men to follow his footsteps and bring the light of the gospel to the darkest Africa. Soon he went back again. He discovered Lake Nyasa and Lake Tanganyika. For 4 years nothing was heard of him. A newspaper reporter led an expedition to search for him. At last he came to the village of Ujiji and found the hut where the great explorer lay ill. He stayed with him, caring for him, and pleaded with Livingstone to come back with him. "No, I must finish my task," he replied. Once again, Livingstone set out. It was the year 1873. One night in April, his faithful servants left him kneeling by his bed praying to God. When they came in the morning, his body was still there, but his soul had gone home to the master he had served so faithfully. They embalmed his body and carried it for 1,000 miles, till at last they reached the coast. It was brought back to England, together with Livingstone's diaries and his possessions. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, where you may see his tomb. But his work went on. Other missionaries, inspired by his example, followed in his footsteps. Today, churches and hospitals and schools in Africa stand as witnesses to the work begun by the brave explorer missionary David Livingstone. Thanks for watching, guys. Continue to watch and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.